Hey team, I wanted to hop on here and give a brief backstory of why I'm getting an ablation. Since I was 17, I began my, at least that I'm aware of, it could have happened in the past where something would have happened and my parents just said, oh, it's anxiety, or oh, it's a skipped beat, that I am aware of, that I remember. Currently I'm 39 as of July 3rd, 2024 today. But that I'm aware of, I've never had A-fib or SVT until I was 17. And it occurred when I was playing basketball. I went up to get a rebound, and as soon as I landed, it started. The A-fib hit me, and I went home. Ended up cardioverting itself. I didn't know anything about the Valsalvic maneuvers, however that's called, not balsamic vinaigrette. But yeah, I didn't know anything about how to cardiovert myself like I do now. There's a bunch of different factors and a bunch of different ways that people can try to cardiovert themselves. My triggers. They have been caffeine, stress, lack of sleep. Never got to try drugs, so AFib can be a good thing. SVT as well. I was officially diagnosed with AFib at the age of 25. I had another incident at 19, and that same thing happened when I jumped up to get a rebound. As soon as I landed, boom, AFib, and this time it lasted for 2.5 hours, much longer. Again, I didn't know what it was. I went to the hospital this time because it didn't fix itself. I went to the hospital, and it was in the hospital when they gave me an IV. That's when it cardioverted itself, or my body did. And so I did not need diltiazem. I did not need an electric shock, none of that stuff. Electrically cardioverted. What do they call that? So that was at 19. I had another incident at the age of 25 when I was on a cruise ship. And that, oh dude, that was bad because I couldn't cardiovert myself. Diltiazem was not working. They gave me diltiazem. That didn't do anything. So they just sent me back to my room with some Xanaxes. I took the Xanax, passed out from the Xanax because I had never had that before. And when I woke up, I was back in NSR, normal sinus rhythm. And since then, AFib has hit me here and there. Sometimes I'm able to cardiovert myself. Sometimes I have to get electrically cardioverted by going to the hospital. And the last time I was electrically cardioverted was in 2017. Today is 2024, July 2024 that I'm making this video. I have an appointment with Dr. Natali. I hope I'm saying that right, or maybe Dr. Natal. But he is world renowned, and I've got a recent phone call with them just now for a Omnipulse PFA. And that's interesting because that's not what they scheduled me for. They scheduled me for another research. Let me pull this up here. Yeah, so I was originally scheduled for a different study. This was the Volt AF study. And that was just 6 weeks ago when they were like, hey, do you want to be part of the study? And I had done my research and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Well, fast forward to just 30 minutes ago, they contacted me again for a different study. And this one is interesting because this one is the Omnipulse study. And what's interesting to me about the Omnipulse is one of two things. One, there's not near as much info on it as the Volt AF. And two, they are requiring an MRI. So before the procedure, and then an MRI after the procedure. So that's really interesting. On one hand, in the name of science, I can jump in and check this out. At the age of 39 years young and not being overweight, I'm 159 pounds at 6'2". And it's not because I work out. In fact, I avoid working out. I avoid strenuous activities because that is a trigger for me. Now, mind you, all these triggers that I'm talking about, for me, that may not affect you. It certainly doesn't affect billions of other people that don't have any heart problems, that are obese, that do drugs, that can still work out and stuff like that. So just because I mentioned triggers, that doesn't mean that now my triggers are your triggers and that you should worry yourself over these things. Worrying is probably one of the worst things that you can do. And I realize that's like saying, don't think about the elephant, and now you're thinking about an elephant. So I digress. Making this video just to give you guys a backstory, along with keeping you guys posted on what I decide. I'm going to continue reading some more about Omnipulse, and I have until Friday. Today is Wednesday. I have until Friday to sign off on this now new study. I do feel like I'm in very capable hands with Dr. Natali and his team. They are incredible, world-renowned. People fly in from outside the country to see this guy and his team. If you're new to having A-fib or SVT, wow, I get it. First off, that sucks, and my heart goes out to you. Secondly, it is not the end of the world. Currently, I'm an NSR. 99% of the time, I stay in NSR. And I think a lot of the reason that I stay in NSR and that I'm in NSR is because I prioritize sleep. My best friend can tell you that there were times where I had the opportunity to do certain extracurricular activities with someone that I had met that night, and I turned it down because it was getting late. And that's me prioritizing sleep. I can't function the next day here and here if I didn't get sleep. So one of the incredible things about having AFib, one of the nice things about having AFib is that it kept me away from drugs. After the age of 25, it kept me away from alcohol. So I haven't had alcohol since I was 25 years young. That doesn't mean you can't have alcohol, just saying what works for me. I haven't had caffeine. I haven't had caffeine since probably the age of 21. I drink orange juice very, very seldomly. And if I do, it's minimal because it has a lot of sugar. I'm always drinking water. That's the only thing that I drink is water, besides the orange juice that I mentioned earlier. So I eat very, very healthy. And that's the reason why I think I'm as fit looking as I am. It's not because I work out, definitely not because I'm running. I'm actually scared of both of those things. Scared to have sex, scared to, do a lot of things, unfortunately. Skydiving, that's out the window, although it's something that I'm passionate for. At least it was something that I was passionate for. So it's been a debilitating disease, but at the same time, it's kept me away from a lot of bad stuff. And I think me being so focused and having blinders on to prioritizing healthy habits, I think that that's why I've gotten as far as I have, where my AFib is nearly non-existent. I'm always in NSR. The only reason I'm even wanting to have an ablation is because now that I'm going to be turning 40 this year, I'm tired of being scared of a lot of stuff. And it would be nice to be a normal human. So despite the fact that I am on 225 milligrams of propafenone every 8 hours, my goal for this ablation is to completely eradicate and get off propafenone. I've never taken blood thinners, and the only time that I ever had a TEE was in 2017 when they were going to electrically cardiovert me. So they gave me a TEE, and that was a freaking nightmare because I woke up in the middle of it, tried to pull out the tube that was in my esophagus, and I don't remember much after that. Anyway, I'm going off on a rant and a tangent here. So trying to stay on track. That's my goal for getting an ablation, especially going to see Dr. Natali. I've never had an ablation. I have had a custom mapping when I was 23 or 25. I have to look at my papers. I highly recommend staying away from salts, like heavy salts, really, really salty foods. At least for me, that can be a trigger. I think breathing is a trigger. So don't let me and my triggers, or at least the things that I think are triggers, don't let those things be your triggers. One more thing. I forgot to mention SVT, supraventricular tachycardia. I certainly have PACs and PVCs, post-ventricular contractions and post-atrial contractions. I think that's what PAC stands for. I got my laptop right now, but I haven't Googled it before I hit record on here. So PVCs and PACs, yeah, those happen to me probably once every 2 or 3 days. I'll get a PVC or PAC, at least that I'm aware of, that I can feel. My QRS is just a little lower than normal, but I think that my QRS is low because of the propafenone that I'm on. So hopefully when I get off propafenone, God willing, that's my goal. Once I get off propafenone after this ablation, I will have a normal QRS. We'll see. Blood thinners, I am taking Eliquis, but the only reason I'm taking Eliquis, I know earlier I mentioned I'm not on any blood thinners. That's true. I was never on blood thinners until just 6 days ago. And that's part of the prerequisite to have an ablation with Dr. Natali. Dr. Natal, I want to mess that up. One of the prereqs for him and his team was you need to be on blood thinners. And that makes sense because they're going to purposely cause AFib. And you really don't want the blood to pool up and then cause a clot because, as they say, AFib doesn't kill you. But us patients, doctors always say AFib doesn't kill you. Don't worry, AFib doesn't kill you. You can't die from AFib. Sure, but us patients always say on the AFib support groups, we always say, well, okay, that's true, but a blood clot can certainly kill you. That said, I never wanted to be on blood thinners because for me, the AFib wasn't that often. The reason I went to A-fib in 2017, extreme stress, no sleep, was going through a breakup, and that was, boom, I was in it, man. I had something else to say. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so the blood thinners. I'm hoping my goal for this ablation is to be off blood thinners, which I was previously, and to also completely eradicate any type of pill that I need. And hopefully it buys me 5 or 10 years of having no PVCs, no PACs, no SVT, and no atrial fibrillation. That would be dreams, man. And the reason I say 5 or 10 years is because supposedly there's no cure for A-fib. They don't consider an ablation a cure. So that's kind of a bummer. But 5 or 10 years of having no medicine inside my body, dude, that'd be awesome. And having a normal life, being able to have sex, not stress out, being able to go for a jog, not stress out, being able to lift some weights without stressing and being in my head, being able to go skydiving again. I could keep going. I won't bore you. I did want to mention that they did recommend I get a cardiac monitor, like a remote cardiac monitor. For example, like my Samsung smartwatch, they said that would work, or like an Apple Watch, that'd be fine. However, I just ordered a Cardia Mobile EKG. Now, the one that I got is a 6-lead because supposedly that's more accurate. The reason I got that is because my Samsung would do some weird stuff where it would say that I had A-fib, but it really didn't. I can tell when I'm an A-fib. I can tell when I have a PVC or a PAC. I can tell when I'm an SVT. It is life halting. It is, for me, feels like the end of the world when I go into A-fib or SVT. The PVCs and the PACs, I get stressed, but I can feel when my heart cardioverts itself within a second or two from having the PVC or PAC. Used to, it would ruin the day because I'd be in my head. Now, I just brush it off because I've had so much experience with PVCs and PACs and A-fib now. That being said, there are way worse patients than me. There are people that are in constant A-fib. And I don't know how they do that. I can't imagine. Some of these patients that are in constant A-fib, they can't even tell. They don't even feel it, which is mind-blowing to me. Some of them just say, oh, I feel a little tired, but that's about it. That's insane. Because when I'm in A-fib, I can't do anything. Is a lot of that battle in here? Yeah, I would say a lot of that battle is in my head. But physically, I don't feel well. Mentally, I am gone when I go into A-fib or SVT. SVT has not happened in years and years and years. When I was into SVT, they found that my heart rate was 328 BPMs. That was insane. Luckily, my body cardioverted itself within a minute or two. Because I went into the hospital for A-fib, and while I was in A-fib, that's when my heart went into SVT. That was the first and only time that I had ever had SVT. I consider myself an SVT patient because one time is one too many. So I'm also diagnosed with SVT. Anyway, thyroid's good. We've checked all that. Blood work, great. No issues there. A lot of that, again, due to having A-fib. Eating well, sleeping well, and all the life choices that I've made. I don't think that not working out is a good idea. Unfortunately for me, stressing is a trigger. And so when I do work out, this is stressed. And when this is stressed, it just seems to permeate down. And so PVCs and PACs kind of ramp up. And so I haven't lifted weights in a long time. Very weak, but that's not because of my heart. I'm very weak because I just haven't worked out. Anyway, if you guys have questions, leave them down below, and I'll keep you guys posted on which study we do. I am going to do a study. I just don't know which one I'm going to do since they called me 30 minutes ago about this new Omnipulse. I've got some reading to do. I want to read a lot of those research papers.